Imagine waking up 2,000 years ago in a city of 1 million people where marble temples tower over crowded streets, where the smell of fresh bread mingles with incense from ancient altars, and where the fate of the known world is decided in a single forum. This is Rome at the height of its power, the greatest city the world has ever seen. Today we will follow an ordinary Roman family through a single day. We will walk their streets, visit their baths, share their meals, and discover what life was really like in the Eternal City. Close your eyes, settle in, and step back in time. The sun rises over the 7 hills of Rome on a warm morning in the year 125 AD. The city is entering another day during the peaceful reign of Emperor Hadrian, a time of prosperity and relative calm across the vast Roman Empire. As the first light touches the eastern sky, the city begins to stir. Rome is home to over 1 million people, making it the largest city in the ancient world. Its inhabitants live in a mix of grand villas, modest townhouses, and towering apartment buildings called insulae. In one such insula, in the Subura neighborhood, a shopkeeper named Marcus wakes just before dawn. The Subura is one of Rome's oldest districts, a crowded area of narrow streets and tall buildings where most of the city's working population lives. Marcus shares a small apartment on the 3rd floor with his wife Julia, their 2 young sons, and Julia's elderly mother. The apartment consists of just 2 rooms. The walls are simple plaster, decorated with a few painted designs Julia added herself. There are no windows with glass, just wooden shutters that can be closed against rain or opened to let in air and light. The furniture is minimal: a wooden bed frame, a small table, a few stools, some storage chests, and a brazier for cooking and warmth. Marcus dresses in his tunic, a simple garment that reaches to his knees. Over this, he wraps his toga, though he does so carelessly. The toga is the formal garment of Roman citizens, but it's cumbersome and impractical for daily work, so Marcus wears it loosely. Later, at his shop, he'll remove it entirely and work in just his tunic. Julia is already awake, rekindling the previous night's coals in the small brazier. She adds a few pieces of charcoal and blows gently on the embers until flames appear. On this small fire, she will prepare the family's breakfast, and later, their evening meal. Most Romans do not cook elaborate meals at home. The risk of fire in these crowded wooden buildings is too great, and fuel is expensive. For breakfast, Julia serves bread purchased yesterday from the baker downstairs, along with some olives, a bit of cheese, and wine mixed with water. This is a typical Roman breakfast, simple and quick. The bread is coarse, made from wheat or barley, darker and heavier than modern bread. The cheese is made from sheep or goat milk, sharp and salty. As the family eats, the sounds of the city waking up filter through the window. A water carrier passes in the street below, calling out his services. Someone is sweeping the front of their shop. A cart rattles over the stone pavement, its wooden wheels loud in the narrow street. After breakfast, Marcus leaves for his shop, which is located on the ground floor of a building just 2 streets away. He sells oil and wine, stored in large clay vessels called amphorae. These are delivered to him by merchants who bring goods from all over the empire. His Spanish olive oil is considered quite good, and he has a steady group of regular customers. Julia, meanwhile, prepares for her own day's work. She is a spinner, turning raw wool into thread that she then sells to weavers. It is repetitive work, but it brings in necessary income. Her fingers are skilled from years of practice, and she can spin while talking, or even while walking through the streets. Her mother-in-law helps watch the children and manages the household while Julia works. The 2 boys, ages 7 and 9, will spend much of their day playing in the streets with other neighborhood children. There are no schools for children of their social class. The oldest boy helps his father in the shop sometimes, learning the trade. The younger one is content to play games with painted stones and chase other children through the maze-like streets of the Subura. By the time the sun has fully risen, the streets of Rome are alive with activity. The city operates on strict rules about when wagons and carts can enter the central districts. During daylight hours, most wheeled traffic is banned from the city center to reduce congestion. This means the mornings are relatively quiet for foot traffic, though still crowded with thousands of people moving through the streets. Merchants opened their shops by removing wooden shutters or screens that sealed them during the night. Many shops are just small rooms open to the street, with the merchants' goods displayed on a counter at the front. Above and behind these shops, families live in small apartments, accessed by external staircases. The streets themselves are paved with large blocks of stone, fitted together with remarkable precision. Raised stepping stones allow pedestrians to cross streets without stepping in the drainage channels that run down the center. These channels carry away rainwater and, less pleasantly, waste from the buildings above. The smell of the city is complex. Freshly baked bread mingles with the smell of fish from the market, incense from temples, and the less pleasant odors of human waste and animals. Romans are accustomed to it all. They notice the good smells and ignore the bad. As morning progresses, Marcus tends to his customers. A slave arrives with a list from his master's household, purchasing several amphorae of wine for an upcoming dinner party. A woman buys a small amount of oil for her family's cooking. Two men come in together and spend time comparing different oils, eventually deciding on the Spanish variety. Marcus keeps his accounts on a wax tablet, scratching numbers and notes with a metal stylus. He is literate, though his education was limited to practical matters like reading, basic mathematics, and keeping records. His handwriting is crude, but functional. Around mid-morning, the streets become even busier. This is when many Romans conduct their business in the Forum, the city's central gathering place. The Forum Romanum is the heart of Rome, a large, open area surrounded by temples, government buildings, and basilicas where legal cases are heard. Senators walk through the Forum in their togas with purple stripes, signifying their rank. Lawyers prepare their cases on the steps of the basilicas. Merchants make deals in the shadow of ancient temples. Citizens gather to hear announcements or simply to see and be seen. The Forum is also where Romans come to hear the latest news. There are no newspapers, no mass communication. News spreads by word of mouth, through public speeches, and through notices posted in the Forum. People gather in groups to discuss politics, military campaigns in distant provinces, or local gossip. The temples in the Forum are active throughout the day. Romans are deeply religious, though their religion is quite different from modern faiths. They worship many gods, each responsible for different aspects of life. Jupiter is the king of the gods. Juno is his wife. Mars is the god of war. Venus is the goddess of love. There are dozens more, including household gods that protect individual families. Priests perform rituals throughout the day. They make offerings of wine, incense, and food. They speak traditional prayers in formal language. They read omens from the flight of birds or the behavior of sacred chickens. These rituals are performed not out of personal devotion, but because the Romans believe their city's success depends on maintaining good relationships with the gods. One of the most important temples in the Forum is the Temple of Vesta, goddess of the hearth. Inside, 6 priestesses called Vestal Virgins tend a sacred flame that must never be allowed to go out. These women are chosen as children and serve for 30 years. They live in seclusion and are held in great honor. If the sacred flame dies, it is seen as a terrible omen for Rome. As noon approaches, the heat of the day begins to build. Rome in summer can be uncomfortably hot, and most Romans adjust their schedules accordingly. The intense work of the morning slows down. Shops close for a few hours. People retreat to the shade. This is when many Romans visit the baths. The public baths are one of Rome's greatest achievements, massive complexes that serve as social centers, exercise facilities, and places of relaxation. There are hundreds of bathhouses throughout the city, from small neighborhood establishments to enormous imperial baths that can accommodate thousands of people at once. Marcus closes his shop around noon and walks to the Baths of Trajan, one of the newer and more impressive bath complexes in the city. The building covers several acres and includes not just bathing rooms, but also exercise areas, libraries, gardens, and shops. Marcus closes his shop around noon and walks to the Baths of Trajan, one of the newer and more impressive bath complexes in the city. The building covers several acres and includes not just bathing rooms, but also exercise areas, libraries, gardens, and shops. Entry to the baths costs only a small coin, making them accessible to almost everyone. Women and men bathe at different times, or in different sections of larger establishments. Today, Marcus enters during the men's hours. He pays his fee to the attendant at the entrance and proceeds to the changing room, where he removes his clothes and stores them in a wall niche. An attendant watches the room, but theft is still common, so Marcus brings nothing valuable. From there, he enters the bathing sequence. Romans typically begin in the tepidarium, a warm room with heated pools. The floors and walls are warmed by an ingenious system called a hypocaust, in which hot air from furnaces circulates beneath the floor and through spaces in the walls. The tepidarium is pleasantly warm. Several other men are already there, some soaking in the pool, others sitting on benches along the wall. Conversations echo off the high ceilings. Someone is discussing politics. Another group is laughing at a joke. A young man sits alone, eyes closed, simply enjoying the warmth. After spending time in the tepidarium, Marcus moves to the caldarium, the hot room. Here, the heat is intense. Sweat pours from his skin. The pool is almost too hot to enter, but he does so anyway, lowering himself gradually into the steaming water. He stays only a few minutes. This heat is cleansing, opening the pores, relaxing the muscles. After the hot room, Marcus visits the frigidarium, the cold plunge. This is a shock after the caldarium. The water is icy cold, unheated. He forces himself to submerge completely, gasping at the cold. It is invigorating, closing the pores, making him feel alert and alive. Once he has completed the bathing circuit, Marcus goes to the exercise area. Some men are wrestling on sand-covered ground. Others are lifting heavy stones. Marcus joins a group playing a ball game, a simple activity involving throwing and catching. After exercise, he returns to one of the warm rooms and pays a slave to scrape his skin with a strigil, a curved metal tool that removes oil, sweat, and dirt. The slave also massages his shoulders and back, working out knots of tension. Marcus spends about 2 hours at the baths in total. This is typical. The baths are not rushed. They are a place to relax, to socialize, to escape the crowded apartment and the demands of work. Many Romans spend their afternoons this way, regardless of social class. A poor laborer might bathe alongside a wealthy merchant. At the baths, such distinctions matter less. When Marcus finally leaves, feeling clean and refreshed, the afternoon is well advanced. He decides not to reopen his shop today. Business has been good this week, and he can afford an afternoon of leisure. He walks through the streets toward the Gardens of Sallust, a large public park on the northern edge of the city. These gardens were once the private estate of a wealthy Roman, but they were open to the public years ago. Now anyone can walk through the shaded paths, admire the statues and fountains, and find a cool spot to rest. The gardens are peaceful. Gravel paths wind between cypress and pine trees. Flowers bloom in carefully tended beds. Fountains splash in small courtyards. Birds sing in the trees. It is hard to believe that the noisy, crowded city is just outside the walls. Marcus finds a bench beneath a tree and sits. He watches other Romans strolling through the gardens. A young couple walks arm in arm. An elderly man examines the flowers closely, as if memorizing them. A group of children runs past, laughing. Their nurse follows at a slower pace, calling for them not to run so fast. Marcus allows his mind to wander. He thinks about nothing in particular. The shade is cool. The sound of the fountain is soothing. His body still feels relaxed from the baths. For a few moments, he simply exists, without worry or planning. As the afternoon wanes, Marcus begins the walk home. The sun is lower now, the shadows longer. The heat of the day is passing. The streets are beginning to fill again as Romans emerge from their afternoon rest. He stops at a bakery to purchase fresh bread for the evening meal. The smell is irresistible, the crust still warm. He also buys a small amount of prepared food from a thermopolium, a kind of ancient fast food restaurant. These establishments sell hot food to customers who lack cooking facilities or who simply don't want to cook. Tonight, Marcus buys a bean stew flavored with herbs and a bit of pork. When he arrives home, Julia is already preparing for the evening meal. She has set out their few dishes and cups on the small table. The boys are there, dirty from a day of playing in the streets. Julia insists they wash their hands and faces before eating. The family sits together for their main meal of the day. They eat the bread Marcus brought, the beans stew, some olives, and fresh figs. They drink wine mixed with water. The meal is simple but satisfying. During dinner, they talk about their day. Marcus describes a difficult customer at the shop. Julia mentions that the rent on their apartment is being raised next month. The boys interrupt with stories about their games and the other children they played with. Julia's mother says little but listens to everything, occasionally offering a comment or piece of advice. After the meal, the family remains at the table for a while. Romans do not rush away from meals. Eating together is an important part of family life, a time when everyone is gathered in one place. As twilight deepens into night, Julia lights an oil lamp. The small flame casts dancing shadows on the walls. Oil is expensive, so they will use only this one lamp, and they will extinguish it before sleeping. Most Romans go to bed soon after dark. Without electric light, there is little reason to stay awake, and oil for lamps is a luxury. The boys are sent to bed. They sleep on a mattress on the floor in the corner of the room, covered with a wool blanket. They whisper to each other for a while, then grow quiet. Within minutes, they are asleep. Marcus and Julia sit together in the lamplight. They speak quietly about practical matters. Tomorrow, Marcus needs to meet with one of his suppliers. Julia has thread to deliver to a weaver. They discuss the increased rent and whether they can afford it or if they should look for a cheaper apartment. But these worries do not weigh too heavily. They have faced similar challenges before and managed. They have food, shelter, and each other. By the standards of their world, they are doing reasonably well. Eventually, they too prepare for bed. Julia extinguishes the lamp. In the sudden darkness, the small sounds of the building become noticeable. Someone walking on the floor above, voices from another apartment, a baby crying briefly, then settling, the creak of wood as the building cools. Marcus and Julia lie down on their bed. The straw mattress rustles as they settle. Through the window, they can see a few stars in the night sky. The air is cooler now, pleasant after the heat of the day. Outside, the city is quiet. Most of Rome sleeps. Only the night watchmen patrol the streets, and the vigiles, the fire brigade, remain alert for any sign of flames. The streets that were so crowded by day are now empty and dark. In the distance, a dog barks, then silence. The Tiber River flows quietly through the city, as it has for centuries, as it will for centuries more. The great monuments of Rome stand in darkness, their marble columns and carved stones illuminated only by moonlight. Inside the apartment, Marcus's breathing deepens. He is falling asleep. Beside him, Julia is already sleeping, her hand resting on his arm. In the corner, their sons sleep the deep sleep of children, untroubled by the concerns of adults. This has been a day in ancient Rome. Not a day of great events or historical significance, but an ordinary day in the lives of ordinary people. A day of work and rest, of routine and small pleasures, of family and community. Tomorrow, the sun will rise again over the 7 hills. The bakers will light their ovens before dawn. The streets will fill with people. The shops will open. The baths will welcome visitors. Life will continue, as it has continued for centuries. But tonight, Rome sleeps. The eternal city rests. And in a small apartment in the Subura, a shopkeeper and his family sleep peacefully. Their day complete, their needs met, their place in the vast empire secure. The lamp is out. The city is dark. The day is over. And Rome, ancient and enduring, waits quietly for the dawn.